The day Amanda discovered that the woman who raised her had been lying all along was the day her world shattered. What she uncovered would cost her more than money. It would cost her trust, her childhood, and her heart. Amanda discovered the truth about her life on a random evening, when she was already on the edge of losing everything. What began as a harmless message from a stranger ended with her standing in court against the only woman who had ever called her family. Amanda had always known life would not be easy. From the earliest moments she could remember, the world had been painted in shades of struggles and survival. She grew up in a small, crumbling house on the outskirts of town with her grandmother, whom she lovingly called Mama Joy. Her parents were a mystery to her, just names without faces, stories without pictures, and memories she could never reach. They had died when she was just a toddler, leaving her in the care of the only family she had left. Mama Joy was a hard-working woman, and Amanda had always admired her resilience. By day, she sold yams and vegetables at the roadside market, calling out in a voice that carried over the noise of passing cars, "Fresh yams. Come and buy. Fresh vegetables." She never rested, always bent over crates and baskets, counting coins and praying for a better tomorrow. It was Mama Joy's hands that held Amanda when nightmares came. It was Mama Joy's voice that hummed lullabies into the night. And for Amanda, that was enough. Amanda was bright, determined, and fiercely independent, qualities that had been nurtured by the stories her grandmother told her. She studied hard, walked miles to school, and took pride in the few achievements she could claim. By the time she got into university, Amanda was already working part-time jobs to support herself. She never wanted to burden her grandmother, who did all she could with the little money she earned. Amanda cleaned houses, tutored younger students, sold snacks, and even tried doing odd jobs at local shops. Despite her efforts, it never seemed to be enough. Her final year of university was the most difficult. The pressure of completing her degree, paying her school fees, and keeping herself afloat was almost crushing. Amanda often stayed up late into the night, her head pressed against her textbooks, praying silently for a miracle. She had managed this far, and she refused to quit. She would not allow life to break her. And then, one unexpected day, the miracle came. Amanda sat on her bed worried about her school life, worried about where the money for her school fees was going to come from. She needed to finish school. She couldn't just drop out of school in her final year. It would be a dumb and heartbreaking thing to do. She was going through her phone when she saw a message from an unfamiliar number. Who could this be? She asked herself, still staring at the message. She decided to ignore it, but something inside her pushed her to read the message. It was a message from a man claiming to be her distant relative. At first, Amanda was skeptical. Who could be a relative after so many years of silence? The man asked her if she knew her parents. He mentioned their names. Amanda's heart tightened at the question. "My parents died when I was very young," she replied cautiously. "I don't know much about them. Nothing about what they looked like, nothing at all." The man paused for a moment, as if processing her words. And then, with a quiet firmness, he said, "Amanda, you are the daughter of my relatives, Mr. and Mrs. Wills. I just knew that you looked familiar. You are not alone. You have a real family." The news hit her like a storm. Her heart pounded with disbelief. Could it be true? After years of feeling orphaned and abandoned, could there really be someone who belonged to her bloodline still living? Over the next 3 months, they exchanged messages almost every day. The man asked about her life, her struggles, and her studies. Amanda poured her heart out to him, telling him about her attempts to work and fend for herself, while keeping her grandmother's sacrifices in mind. She never wanted to ask Mama Joy for extra help. The guilt of burdening the woman who had given her everything weighed heavily on her conscience. And then came the topic that would change everything. "Did you get your father's inheritance?" the man asked casually, almost as if testing the waters. Amanda froze. Inheritance? Money left behind by a father she had never known? Her mind raced. She had never heard of any inheritance. She didn't even know if her father had any assets. I didn't get anything," she replied cautiously. "Why?" He explained that her father had indeed left money behind, a sum that had been kept hidden by the family. He himself had not wanted to be involved in any disputes or family quarrels because, in his words, family people are dangerous. They meddle with juju and all sorts of things. I don't want to be caught in that. Amanda was still in disbelief as she read the messages. Why didn't Mama tell me? She asked herself, wondering. But I can give you several people who can help you get it back, although it'll be a hard task, he added. He gave her the number of a man who could help her claim her father's money safely. Amanda's mind was a whirlwind. Questions poured in like rain, but clarity was elusive. She thought about her grandmother. Would Mama Joy know? If she knew, why didn't she tell me? Why did she keep such a secret? Even when she knows that I'm struggling and trying to finish my school, she kept asking herself. But what if the man wasn't telling the truth? Is it unfair if I believe someone else over my grandma? Someone who took care of me since I was little? She kept asking questions, but no answers. Would Grandma tell the truth if Amanda asked directly? Amanda was clever. She had grown up learning to navigate the delicate terrain of her grandmother's protective secrecy. So she asked the questions carefully, crafting her words, so that Mama Joy had no choice but to reveal the truth. That evening, Mama Joy came back from the market as usual, tired and stressed. Amanda helped her with the things she was carrying. While she sat, Amanda brought water for her to drink. Amanda suddenly said something that made Mama cough up the water. Mama, the court called me and said I should get my father's inheritance from you, she said, looking at Mama Joy. Mama Joy coughed up the water she was drinking and looked at Amanda. How did she know about the money? Why did the court suddenly call her? Mama Joy thought. Amanda was clever enough not to ask her directly, because she had every opportunity to deny it, and she would have denied it. But since she said it this way, Mama had no other choice but to tell her the truth. At first, her grandmother hesitated, her eyes flickering with unease. The money. I thought I cleared everything, she whispered, still confused, her voice trembling. But Amanda knew better. The fear in Mama Joy's eyes, the hesitation in her tone, it told a story far from the one being told. I used all the money, she finally said. Amanda's heart sank, but anger flared too. Mama, what do you mean by you used all the money? Amanda asked, furious. The money is finished, Grandma said, with no sign of remorse. What did you use the money for? Amanda asked again. Grandma refused to answer. Mama, what did you use the money for? She asked again in a high tone. Mama Joy refused to answer. Tears filled Amanda's eyes. Not tears of fear, but betrayal. Betrayal from the only person she ever loved and trusted genuinely. What did you use such a huge amount for? Knowing fully well that you are struggling, and I am struggling to pay my fees in school, Amanda said, wiping her tears. That same money that would have put us out of this poverty. The same money that would have uplifted your business. Or do you like the way you are always under the sun selling vegetables in the market? Do you like it? She added, raising her voice. Mama just looked at her, but with no remorse at all, as if it was her right to do it, and Amanda deserved nothing. Amanda stormed out of the house with anger in her heart and tears in her eyes. The woman who had loved and nurtured her had lied to her for years, claiming she had no child, and now she was trying to cheat her out of what was rightfully hers. Amanda felt a cold, determined fury take root in her chest. She confronted her grandmother more firmly this time, but Mama Joy's demeanor changed. The warmth and affection Amanda had known all her life turned to hostility. Her grandmother would look at her as if she were looking at her enemy, like someone who held a long-time grudge with her granddaughter. Because of money, she confronted her grandmother again, the third time, with a steady voice and a courage she did not know she possessed. She asked direct questions, no longer hiding behind careful words. Mama, be honest with me. What did you use the money for? She asked quietly. And I am sorry for the last time I shouted at you, but I really want to know what happened with the money, Mama, she added. But instead of the woman who had once held her when she cried, Amanda saw someone else entirely. Mama Joy's face hardened, her eyes growing cold and defensive. The warmth, patience, and gentle affection Amanda had known all her life slowly disappeared, replaced by sharp words and bitter silence. "I used the money for my children," Mama finally replied with a cold tone. "My children needed money, and I needed to help them. Of course, if it were you, you would do the same," Mama added. "Do the same? With my father's money? Even if you wanted to help your children as you said, why didn't you tell me my father had some inheritance left for me?" she said, trying to calm herself. "At least why didn't you give me some for my schooling? Knowing I was struggling badly, I trusted you with everything, and I felt like I owed you because of how good you've been to me. Why the betrayal?" she added. But instead of replying, Mama walked out slowly. From that day, everything in the house changed. Mama Joy no longer spoke to her kindly. She criticized the way Amanda dressed, the way she ate, and the way she spoke. She complained about how much food Amanda consumed and how much space she took up, as though Amanda had suddenly become a burden instead of a blessing. At night, when Amanda tried to rest, Mama Joy would switch off the light deliberately or make loud comments about how ungrateful children always repay kindness with trouble. She began to restrict Amanda's movement in the house, locking doors, hiding food, and making her feel like a stranger in the place she had always called home. The air between them grew heavy and painful, filled with unspoken anger and betrayal. Amanda felt as though she was walking on broken glass every day, unsure of when the next insult or threat would come. Amanda decided to ignore her, because this same woman took care of her when no one else was there. She felt like Mama was just being a grandmother, and she didn't want the issue to be more than that. Eventually, Mama Joy said the words Amanda feared the most. "If you don't stop asking questions," she warned, "you will leave this house. I don't owe you anything." Those words pierced Amanda's heart. She had nowhere else to go. Yet she also knew she could no longer live in silence or fear. Something inside her hardened, turning her pain into strength. With trembling hands but a determined spirit, Amanda began to save whatever little money she could. She borrowed small amounts from friends, skipped meals, and walked long distances just to save transport fare. She sought legal advice quietly, afraid of what might happen if her grandmother discovered her plans. When she finally filed the case, the real battle began. The court process was long, draining, and emotionally exhausting. Each hearing reopened old wounds. Mama Joy cried before the judge, twisting the story to make herself appear innocent. She accused Amanda of being greedy, ungrateful, and disrespectful. Neighbors were brought in to testify. Lies were spoken boldly, and half-truths were dressed as facts. There were days Amanda left the courtroom in tears, doubting herself, wondering if she was wrong to fight. But each time she remembered the truth about her parents, the money, the years of deception, she found the strength to return. She stood firm, not just for herself, but for the parents she never knew, whose hard-earned legacy had been taken from her. She was no longer the frightened girl who stayed silent. She was fighting for her identity, her future, and the justice that had been denied to her for so long. And no matter how painful the journey became, Amanda refused to turn back. Finally, after months of tension, sleepless nights, and countless court appearances, the judgment day arrived. Amanda stood in the courtroom with her heart pounding, her hands shaking as the judge read out the final decision. When the words were spoken, that Mama Joy was ordered to return every penny she had wrongfully kept, Amanda felt the weight of the world lift from her shoulders. It was over. Mama Joy cried openly as the reality of the verdict sank in. To meet the court's demand, she was forced to sell nearly everything she had struggled to acquire over the years. Her small pieces of land, her goods, and even personal belongings she cherished. Watching her grandmother lose everything was painful for Amanda. It felt like watching a part of her own childhood being stripped away. Yet she also knew that justice had finally been served. When the money was finally handed over, Amanda did not feel the joy she had imagined. Instead, she felt exhausted, emotionally drained, and deeply conflicted. She had gained what was rightfully hers, but she had lost the woman she once trusted with her whole heart. The house that had once felt warm and safe now felt empty and distant. The laughter, the shared meals, and the quiet evenings were all memories that could never be recovered. Still, Amanda refused to let the pain define her. With quiet determination, she used part of the money to pay off her outstanding school fees, complete her final projects, and graduate with pride. For the first time in her life, she was no longer afraid of being sent away from school or wondering where her next meal would come from. She invested wisely, secured a small apartment, and began building a future free from fear and uncertainty. Though her heart still ached for her grandmother, Amanda understood that some truths, no matter how painful, must be faced. She had learned that love and betrayal could exist in the same space, and that sometimes standing up for yourself means walking away from what once felt like home. She had lost a family, but she had found herself. Amanda's story became one of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of justice. She learned that love and loyalty were complex, that family could be both a source of warmth and conflict. But most importantly, she discovered the power of standing up for herself, of claiming what was rightfully hers, and of carving out her own destiny, no matter the obstacles. In the quiet moments, when the world finally slowed and there was no one else around to pretend for, Amanda would sit alone and allow her thoughts to drift back through everything she had endured. She remembered the nights she cried silently into her pillow, afraid of failing, afraid of being sent away from school, afraid of becoming invisible. She remembered reading under dim lights, her eyes burning with exhaustion, her body aching from long hours of work, yet her spirit refusing to give up. She remembered the countless days she walked through life with unanswered questions, carrying a past she never understood. The memory of the stranger's message still echoed in her mind the moment her world shifted and the truth began to unfold. She relived the confusion, the fear, the anger, and the heartbreak that followed. She remembered standing before her grandmother, trembling yet brave, demanding honesty. She remembered the pain of realizing that the woman she trusted most had been hiding the truth from her. But she also remembered the strength she discovered within herself. The courage to fight, the determination to stand in court and speak her truth, and the resilience that carried her through moments when she felt like giving up. Each scar, each tear, each setback became a reminder of how far she had come. And in those moments, when silence wrapped around her like a gentle embrace, Amanda would smile softly, not because the journey had been easy, but because she had survived it. She had claimed her voice, her identity, and her future. She had built a life with her own hands, and no secret, no lie, no hardship could take that away from her. The life she had fought for was finally hers. Please like, share, and subscribe for more exciting stories.